Hello, welcome back to Geek Quick in Review with me, Jacob Soys, and of course, SuperSorrell. We're missing Ryan Speaks Geek because this is a special episode, a Spider-Man No Way Home episode. So, as described in the description and the thumbnail and everything, there are going to be huge amounts of spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home. So, if you haven't seen it or you don't want to know what's going to happen in the film, etc., then please do switch off. If you are going to stick with us, then that's because you either can't wait or you've already seen the film and you just want to hear other people talk about it. So once again, just spoilers ahead. Turn off now because we are going to dissect this film the best that we can because both SuperSorrell and myself have seen it today on the 15th, which is the release date in the UK. So spoilers. Right, now, I think I've said that enough. So if you are still watching, it's of your own fault or welcome to the chat. But oh, what a ride. There was literally not a minute that bored me. Every minute of that film was perfect. Yep. Absolutely perfect. I have a few critiques. I have a few little niggles, of course. But where do we even start?
I better know one of your little critiques because you said it a little while back, and I said it was going to happen. You said it wouldn't because it'd be too cheesy pie, and then it happened.
Oh yeah, I know exactly. As soon as I saw it, I was just like, Sorrell's going to pull me on that. He's going to pull me.
It completes his little story arc. He lost his version of the character, and now he's sort of redeemed himself. He cried a little bit. It was good.
So of course, we saw the three Spider-Men reunited, or united. Wasn't it reunited? Wasn't it? But the three Spider-Men. Now we all knew that was going to happen. There was so many leaks and stuff. One thing I will say is I think that the marketing team and the actors involved and everything did a really good job of trying to convince us that it wasn't going to happen.
For the first time in a long time, I felt we genuinely we've had chats every single week, sort of going back and forth. I've been back and forth and saying, will they be there? Won't they be there? And then to finally see it all happen on the screen was just amazing.
Oh, I know. At the point when they opened that portal and you saw it, I was like, that's Andrew Garfield. Like you knew because of the eyes. It was like,
how did the cinema react where you were? Were it quiet? Did everyone just keep posure? Or because like at 10 o'clock this morning, it was just full of geeks like me. And the moment that portal opened, you just heard this sort of like this little like breath in, and then all of a sudden, as soon as he spoke, everyone was like, "It's Andrew Garfield."
There was on his entrance. It was very much a kind of like, "Ooh," but then obviously when Tobey Maguire stepped through, that was when everyone that was a worthy cap moment in the cinema. Like that was when everyone kind of cheered.
My critique was they did it too close together.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen them play around with Andrew for a little bit, and then in another scene he goes, "I'll try it again," and he sort of does it again, and then Toby walks through. I think that would have had more of an impact for Toby because I felt like after the first, like in my cinema, after the first like big jump, nobody really jumped for Toby. It was just there.
Okay. Oh, see, it went kind of the other way. Like I said, it was Andrew was the foreplay in my cinema, and then the big climax was Toby. But I think for how they did it in the story, though, you know, Peter Parker's arc, like Tom Holland's Peter Parker's arc, it was the right time to kind of have them there. But just to see the three of them swinging around and just it was just stunning. It was absolutely stunning. There was what was nice is because obviously, you know, being the age that we are, obviously we grew up with Toby and then Andrew and now Tom Holland. There was different parts of me that was just kind of excited at different parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There was the much younger version of me was just kind of like so behind Tobey Maguire, and then
this is now a culmination. Like I was saying I was sort of talking to people about it today that have seen it. It was that film is now like everything of our childhood has come back round. Like everything, it now makes sense.
Yeah,
like they brought it all back into the fold. So Marvel just one big thing now. If they do that with the X-Men now, people are going to go mental. But you know what I mean? Like the whole inclusion of the other Spider-Men was just it brought all those films back in for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, they did take into it. They didn't really explain anything. I love the fact that they didn't go out of their way to overly explain it. They just assumed you'd seen them. They didn't really go out of the way to explain it, did they? Did you notice?
As in, what do you mean?
Like they didn't introduce like the way they you know, like in modern films these days they would kind of recap somehow through dialogue. Like, you're so and so. Like they didn't do any of that. They just assumed that you knew who these people were. And they didn't like, so there were some kids in my cinema. I know they should have been at school, but there were kids in my cinema. And they were definitely confused. They must have been about 7 or 8, and they had no idea who Tobey Maguire was.
See, I've got the same thing. I don't know. I think I might have said on the show, but my son's desperate to watch it. And so I've made him go and watch the others. I've said, if you're going to see it, you have to see at least kind of Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then maybe 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 1 if you've got time. But they're the 3 that you have to see, mainly just because the villains that we've seen teased in the trailers. And his kind of reaction to Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is he's got this whole new kind of Spider-Man universe that he didn't kind of know existed. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing his reaction because I'm taking him at the weekend. But yeah, it was just go on.
I can say, I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but oh my God, William Dafoe has not missed a beat, has he?
No.
That portrayal was insane. Because I was worried, obviously, with him being a bit older now, it's been 20 years. Could he really still do it? But oh my God, he was the most sinister villain out of all of them.
Yeah. All right. So let's go villain by villain. Let's go villain by villain. That might be a good way to do it. Let's start with the 2 kind of lesser villains, I think, in the film, and that's Sandman and Lizard. So I think Lizard probably played the smallest part, I think, in my opinion. I love the kind of update that they gave him. It was kind of reminiscent enough of the one that we had seen in Amazing Spider-Man 1, but it looked a lot more ferocious. And I loved how he was, he was just the Lizard, like that was him, But yeah, I really liked his character in it. I kind of wanted to see more. I kind of wanted him to have a bigger part, but understandably he didn't.
I thought this film could have easily been split into 2. They did it for Infinity War and Endgame. I was so surprised this was not a 2-parter.
I get that.
There was so much in there and so much to show us and get around and do that I really thought like film 1 would have been about him capturing them, and then film 2 could have been the big fight. And out a little bit more.
I agree.
Sending them
but
home
with that said, though, I think that the way it was written and directed and stuff, it balanced. I didn't feel that any part of it was rushed, but it could have all been extended. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Lizard had probably the most minor part. But it left me wanting to see more of him, which was good. And I loved the kind of reveal at the end when you obviously saw him and stuff, when he'd been cured and that. Sandman, I loved his introduction. I loved the fact that he kind of picked up where he had kind of made good with Peter in Spider-Man 3. And so that he instantly came in as a savior, didn't he? And then only really turned his back when obviously he realized where he was. But I love the fact that it just shows how far we've come CGI wise from Spider-Man 3 to now, because both of those characters looked so much better than they did in their original films. But I like Sandman. It's kind of a bit forgetful,
But again, we it was so cool that they included the original actors, because they could have very easily never powered them 2 down and just left them as CGI monsters for the whole film. But it was nice that they actually included in the powered down scenes where you see them come back to human form. Actually, the actors were there, which was awesome, like really awesome to see them all.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so Electro. Let's talk about Electro. I thought that it was clever what they did. Like they addressed the fact that he looked different. But he was the only one that looked different in the different universe, because he kind of said that, didn't he? Like, oh, in my universe, he's got like a receding hairline and whatever, but here he looks, and he's like, oh, I like the way I look and everything like that, And I thought that was weird, but obviously it worked, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was. They didn't really. Well, if they went down that line, they could have addressed why all of them looked 20 years older, but they didn't. They just kind of left them to it.
Just that was it. But yeah, I really liked Electro's, and he was really, apart from Goblin that we'll get onto in a minute, Electro was really the kind of villain, wasn't he? He was really the real kind of bad guy, because
Lizard saw it coming, didn't he? Because he sort of made a comment in the back of that van, like, "Oh, here we go." He kind of knew it was going to all kick off. But yeah, Electro was the one that kind of really wanted to. He didn't want to play game, did he? He really didn't want to be cured, as they said.
No, and I love that they made him much more comic book accurate, but also we saw him as he was. We saw the transition. It wasn't just a case of, hey, you're here now and we're going to make you more comic book accurate. Like they've done the transition. And I love the little jokes as well. Like Electro had so many jokes. Like everything from the talking to Andrew Garfield, where he's like, "Oh, I thought you were black."
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a black suit Spider-Man somewhere, and there's that kind of moment of pause, and but I also like the kind of his introduction scene when he's chatting, and then he says that whole thing about like, is no one going to mention the fact that I'm like naked or whatever? Like, I really enjoyed Jamie Foxx's portrayal. I think there could have been a little bit more, and I think that if it was split over 2 films, I think he would have had a much bigger kind of section. But yeah, Electro just looked cool. Like he looked really. His costume was one of the ones that I did like the change. I like the way that they kind of modernized him, but made him comic book accurate.
I'm glad they brought him back in the way they did, and they didn't bring him back as the big blue version of the character, because I was never a fan of that in the original film.
No,
as it was in the movie, it made sense for that universe, but I always want to see him in the traditional kind of way.
Yeah, that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 kind of fell into that kind of comic book film genre where they try to make something new and it doesn't quite land. So I'm glad that they kind of redeemed him, if you like. Dr. Octopus, obviously, I mean, you called it that he was going to be good, you know what I mean, that there was going to be that switch. And you even said that he would be fighting alongside him, and for a minute he was kind of there, wasn't he? But yeah, I just thought I can never pronounce his name, Alfred.
I can never pronounce it either.
No, but you know who I can never pronounce it. But I just thought his quality of acting was so good, like that and it was originally in Spider-Man 2, but where he kind of switches from the good to the evil. I loved the nanotech involvement. I thought that was really clever, and I did not see that coming. I don't think anyone did. I think
I didn't.
All the things
saw the differences in the claws in the trailer, didn't we? We all kind of commented on what his claws look different this time, but I had no idea that was going to be the little tech things from Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, there were so many people that pulled it apart because of that screenshot. I think it was Empire magazine showed where Spider-Man had that hole in the chest and that, and they were like, "Oh, look, he's got the nanotech," but there was nowhere I read where they said, "Oh, Spider-Man will now be able to control him." Like it was such a cool little twist that I was like, "Yes, that's cool." But yeah, I thought Dr. Octopus was good, but again, because of the length of the film, there was a big portion where he kind of just disappeared, wasn't there? And no one really knew what he was doing or where he was. So I wonder if there's going to be anything that kind of comes from that, whether he was trying to do something or whether there was something he did. But what I did really like about, before we move on to Goblin, because it didn't work for Goblin, but for everyone else, is that they all had their kind of full circle moments with their respective Spider-Men, which I thought was really a really nice touch. Like seeing Dr. Octopus and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man kind of having that conversation and being those characters that they were. And it was just really beautiful. It was really, really nice. And there was definitely a tear-jerking moment there. And the same with Electro and Amazing Spider-Man, like we just said about that whole kind of in-joke and stuff. So Goblin aside, who's your favorite out of those villains?
The ones we spoke about so far, probably Electro, because it was the most surprising change, and I liked the way Jamie Foxx kind of really portrayed him in this film, and it was a lot better in this film. Then again, you've got to think it's been. I know it sounds daft, but it's been what, 10 years? No, I'm gonna tell you. How long's it been since Amazing Spider-Man? It's been a while, hasn't it? Jamie Foxx has come along as an actor in that time as well. It's got
to be 10 years.
It must be, hasn't it? I mean,
thereabouts at least.
Because he's come quite a long way from obviously music into acting, and then I think he's kind of grown as an actor as well, which makes the quality of the film better.
Yeah, definitely. And then, as you say, William Dafoe's Goblin was just phenomenal. Like he nailed it anyway. Like back in the day, and that was what, 20 years ago.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And then he came back. He must have watched that film and practiced that voice, because he came back and the voice was just there, wasn't it? It was just his voice doing the whole "what are you doing?" So like that creepiness. It's the kind of the teeth and the lips and the eyes. It's like his nose moves. Like it's like a full facial transformation, isn't it? I love the smashing of the mask as well. I love the fact that we saw him in suit, but then that went away. And I love that
he was kind of in his homeless kind of gear, and that turned into his new costume, if that makes sense. But yeah, he was so good, so good.
Question for you.
Go on, Em.
Would you like to see him as like an aging Joker? Imagine if he played the Joker in a Batman movie.
I've said this for a while. Like, I think if there's any actor that could take that role, ever since his Green Goblin portrayal, how he's not been given a Joker role is beyond me.
If they portray it the way they portrayed the Green Goblin, just let him go with it with a darker, sinister version of the Joker, he could absolutely nail that.
I could see him have you read The Killing Joke?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that Joker, he would be phenomenal as, I think. Yeah. I really do. All right, so before we move on to any kind of plot points and stuff, the 3 Spider-Men on screen together. Was there a particular moment for you that was just...
It was the bit where they first meet Tom Holland, and Tom Holland sort of sat down, and then they just appear in the silhouette on top of that building, and the way they just stood
and then they flip down. Yeah. And there was, I just think that the direction and the writing took advantage of every minute, every second that they were on screen together. Like, even down to the extent of, like, you know, Ned kind of addressing Peter Parker and Peter, yep. Peter Parker, yep. It's like, and then even like the little jokes that Andrew Garfield's saying about, like, have you got your costume, or are you gonna like, as a, what does he say? Something about a supply teacher or something. Did he call him? Like a street pastor. Like, and then he does the little pull down, and it's there. And I love how they kept the suits authentic as well. They didn't try to kind of give them an upgrade or anything. They were very, very authentic to the original films. I really loved the bit on the scaffolding where they were just kind of chatting, where they were just kind of like talking about, like, and Tobey Maguire's cracking his back, and then they talk about, like, I've always wanted brothers and stuff. Like, it was just, and I loved all the kind of, like you say, they didn't really go into detail, but they all referenced significant moments, didn't they, during conversation, and the way that they kind of saw the similarities in the differences. I just thought it was lovely. I really did. I thought it was just perfectly, it wasn't overdone. It wasn't, it wasn't kind of
wasn't
cheesy.
Done for cheap. It wasn't done for cheap. It was done. It wasn't done for like a cheap laugh, and it wasn't done for it was done cinematically the way we all expected it to be done.
Yeah. You know what?
Very well.
You know what did make me laugh, actually, when I was coming home, and I thought, because X-Men did this. X-Men did it, didn't they? Where they brought the 2 kind of franchises together with the Days of Future Past. But that didn't have anywhere near the reaction or build up that this has had.
People just hated the new cast at that point, because everyone loved Hugh Jackman, and that's why they had to bring him back, because it just people couldn't see X-Men without Hugh Jackman.
No,
he was the character.
But yet, this is taking, like, and essentially what they did in X-Men there is they took the guys that paved the way and brought them in with the guys that were doing it now, and that's essentially what they've done in this film, is that they've honoured the kind of past, but it was just so much better, like, just done so much better. I just thought, it was wicked, absolutely wicked.
Remember a while back when we mentioned that they brought in people from the original films to do some of the artwork, and that was clearly evident through the film. The Spider-Man looked like they should have done, and you could tell that they had the artists from the film that had done that Spider-Man, so they knew how to, like, draw and do, like, a CGI that particular Spider-Man.
Yeah,
because they all looked like they should. They didn't look like newer versions. They didn't look updated. They didn't all look identical. They all looked as they should.
Yeah, they literally looked like they'd come out of literally. And the idea was obviously that these villains had literally, like, they were the minutes after we had seen them last is where they then appear in this film, and that it felt that for the Spider-Men, that they literally had stepped out of their film to do this. It's if I was told that all of these films were being made at the same time, all these different Spider-Man franchises were made at the same time, you'd kind of believe it seeing this film, if that makes sense. All right, let's talk about suits then. Why we're talking about suits, because obviously Tom Holland got a few different ones in this film. So we obviously saw his upgraded suit, which he had at the beginning, and then we saw the integrated suit, which is obviously half Iron Spider and half upgrade suit, and we saw the Inside Out, the kind of black suit as well. So we saw all of those.
I can't believe that we were sat there for ages dissecting that black and gold suit, going, I bet it's because he has to withstand electro or something. No, he just turned it inside out because he got green goop on it. It was
inside out. Yeah. it was literally just his suit inside out. Like
in the cinema, I was literally going, I bought a figure of this. Oh my god, it's just his suit inside out.
Yeah, I loved the Doctor Strange edition though, the web shooter.
Oh, that was cool.
And when he zapped the tree, and Ned was saying, "Is this a tree doctor?" Or and then obviously we see a new suit at the end.
Yes.
Now that
like electric blue suit kind of thing, wasn't it? Like,
that looked stunning. That it was just classic Spider-Man, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But
well, he's basically become the classic Spider-Man now. He lives on his own. He's not really friends like MJ and that have kind of moved on. He's on his own in an apartment with no parents, no MJ, no nothing.
No.
He's got the radio with the thing tuning into the police.
He literally has become the Parker, Yeah. Which I just thought was wicked. Speaking of MJ as well, we actually found out her actual name because we've never heard it properly, have we? Up until now, but it isn't Mary Jane Watson at all. She is Watson, but what was it? Michelle something. Michelle Jones Watson, was it?
Jones Watson, and she goes by Jones, not Watson. She doesn't like Watson.
But I just thought that was a really clever little. Like they didn't have to give us that
in the original movies. In a different version of that character, when in the Kirsten Dunst version, wasn't her father kind of like, I don't say abusive, but wasn't he kind of like not a nice guy? Because in that scene, she's crying, isn't she, when she comes out of the house and meets Peter?
Yeah, he shouts.
That's shouted at her.
It's
so
implied that is. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm wondering whether that in this universe she hasn't grown up with a dad. That's why she doesn't like the name Watson. She goes by Jones, which is obviously her mother's name.
Quite possibly.
That's why she's now successful in school, and it's very different version of the characters, like polar opposites, aren't they?
Yeah. But I can't wait to see that electric blue suit in the next film. I cannot wait to see that. I think that's going to be the definitive Spider-Man suit, without a doubt.
The thing that I sort of said on my kind of like review of the film was, for me, because they already announced days before there's going to be 3 more films, it kind of took the wind out of the ending a little bit for me. It's like, oh, well, he's probably going to get MJ back and he's probably going to fix everything. But I would have liked, how cool would it have been to say that this is the end of the Spider-Man arc and we're not sure if there's going to be another film now, and leave us in limbo for a while if there's going to be another film? Because that was a perfect written ending for that character. And then to bring him back later on would be a bigger pop. Whereas I think just making another film in a few years, isn't it? I don't want it to run into the territory of getting like less and less every time and sizzling out.
See, I wonder if they are, because obviously now that they've forgotten him, there was that kind of moment, wasn't there, where he went in to kind of reunite with them and decided not to. I'm wondering whether the story is going to move away from those two. Like we've had I don't think there's going to be the getting the MJ back. I think we're going to move on to something else. She might come back full circle, possibly. Quite possibly.
Miles, and they could introduce Gwen and Miles and characters like that, and the Spider-Verse in general.
Yeah. So the splitting up as well. Let's talk about the purple in the sky. What characters did you pick up on? Because you saw them all, didn't you? The silhouettes.
At the time in the cinema, I didn't really notice that, to be honest. So I haven't got a clue. I think I saw. No, I really didn't pick any out, to be honest. I was too busy just in awe of the whole bloody film.
I saw a Scorpion. Craven was in there. Literally when they focus in, when he says the line of there's more coming through, and it shows you, I think, maybe 2 or 3 frames of the crack, and there's silhouettes in the crack. And one of them was clearly Craven, because you saw the big kind of furry collar and the spear. One of them was like a man, and you saw like a big tail, so it was a scorpion. There was another one that could have been like an animated rhino, because it was like quite a big hulking figure, but then could be anyone. But it was one of them ones that when you picked up on one and you went to look at another, it was gone. So when I take my boy on Saturday, I'm going to look at a different part and see. But it was a really nice little touch that you saw all of these characters. But the whole forgetting thing, going back to that, I thought that was a very clever way of writing Spider-Man out of the MCU and back into Sony.
Yeah, but at the same time, The thing that I don't get is why did he? Why did he say goodbye to Doctor Strange? Because Doctor Strange still knows who about Spider-Man. He still saved the world with Spider-Man. He just doesn't know that it's Peter Parker. That was the part of the spell. Nobody's forgotten about Spider-Man. They've just forgotten about Peter Parker.
Oh, that's true. Actually, I hadn't picked up on that.
Like when Doctor Strange says goodbye to him, I was like, well, why are you saying you still know each other? You just don't know who's under the mask now. So like all the characters still know about Spider-Man. They just don't know who's under the suit. He's protecting his identity.
Speaking of which, I just remembered one bit as well where he goes, go on.
No, I was just saying, just before I forget, on that note though, because this is what I don't get about the ending to the film with MJ and stuff. MJ would still be aware of Spider-Man. She just wouldn't know who Spider-Man is. But she would be aware that she has flung around with Spider-Man and she's hung out with Spider-Man, but she just won't remember his face. Yeah, but some of the memories would still be there, surely. I think that's going to be a plot point going forward. I think that's going to be a plot point.
Yeah, quite possibly. See, in my interpretation of it was that is taken out of her memory. So anything that happened with Peter Parker or Spider-Man would have been gone. And it's because she was still wearing the necklace. Did you notice that at the end?
Yeah.
But I thought he was going to ask her about it, but she was still wearing the necklace, but she wouldn't have known where it came from.
I'm also wondering whether they do remember, but they're in the same mind of him, of Peter, where it's like maybe we don't get back together, maybe we just leave it now as is because we're going to protect everyone.
Maybe.
Remembering, will it undo? If we remember, will it undo things? And it'd be cool to see like a nod to that in a future film that she does actually know who he is.
Yeah, I thought her and Ned were going to be together. I'm not going to lie. When he walked in,
oh my god.
When he walked in, I honestly thought he was going to walk in and kiss her, and then that would have been like. But at that point, my brain had just been fried by so much. I was like, anything's possible. You could throw anything at me right now, and I'd be like, I'd go with it. But there was one point that you just reminded me of there, where the three Spider-Men were talking, and Tobey Maguire talks about Venom, doesn't he? He talks about fighting an alien, and then he says, "Oh, I've been up in space and fought aliens," and then Andrew Garfield was like, "I want to go to space." And then when Tom Holland says about being an adventurer, and they're like, "What's that? Is it a band? Are you in a band?" It was just brilliant. It was brilliant.
And they kept calling Andrew Garfield amazing. That scene where they're going, "But you're amazing, you're amazing." Yeah. Oh, that was so cheesy.
That was. So let's talk Aunt May. Let's talk about Aunt May. She obviously delivers the big line, doesn't she? So we finally got the, great power comes great responsibility. We finally heard it in the MCU. As soon as she delivered it, I knew she was going. It's the call of death, isn't it? You say that line, you're done.
That was his Uncle Ben moment, because I was saying I was talking to my friend that was like, up until that moment, the Spider-Man we've always had. Yes, I know he's died and come back, but everything's always worked out in the end. He got the girl, he's got a best friend, he's a superhero, he's an Avenger. Everything was going right for him. We needed that moment to ground him again.
Yeah.
Otherwise, his character was just going to get so not like believable and not as like, what do you call it? We'll be able to sympathize with him as much.
Yeah.
Whereas he needed that Uncle Ben moment, which he's never had or we've not seen.
No, completely agree. And it was obviously a big part of this kind of story arc for him. But I didn't see her die, and I know we had spoken about it before in previous weeks. And I think it was you that said that you thought she was gonna kick it.
So I said somebody should, like, they needed somebody to. I thought it might have been Happy Hogan, but I did mention that it could be Aunt May. But I thought Happy Hogan was going to be the one to bite it.
Yeah. Well, obviously he's lost him now because of the whole forgetting things. But there was it was what that's a plot point for you, is it?
No, it's like, well, he still knows. They acknowledged it at that point, which is what I don't get with the ending with MJ, because at that point he says, I know him through Spider-Man. So he knows who Spider-Man is. He just doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man.
No, he just doesn't know who Spider-Man is, but he obviously knows Spider-Man's done all the things that he's done.
Those memories are still there, is what I'm saying. He still remembers people, like that. He still remembers Spider-Man. So why doesn't MJ remember Spider-Man at all?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
But then it also it is a bit of a plot hole actually when you think about it, because everything that Stark left for Peter Parker, Happy was kind of the, he was almost like the what is it when it comes to wheels and stuff? The I can't even think it, but the person who's like in charge of it, but he was in charge of making sure that Peter Parker got it all, wasn't it? Him and Pepper.
Now he's lost it all.
Yeah, but surely, so all of that's going to have gone. So as far as Happy's concerned, Iron Man died, Stark died, but the stuff wasn't passed on to anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good job that he had that one particular piece of tech in his apartment, wasn't it? Like, he's out of all the things he could have stolen from the facility. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really call her dying, but there was one leak that hit the internet where she was, I can never remember her name, but she supposedly had ruined Spider-Man to her therapist, and that was all over. Had you heard that? Have you read that one? Yeah, there was like a CNN or I don't know, CBS or something. One of the news channels was said that so and so, Aunt May ruined the end of Spider-Man to her therapist, and there's like a picture of her and a picture of Spider-Man and that. So I knew there was going to be something to do with her character that she's obviously told her therapist in conversation or out of therapy or whatever. But I didn't call it being her dying. I didn't think we were going to lose that figure just yet. But it's made Spider-Man grow up. He's not the little boy that he's been in these films, is he? Yeah,
He's lost the he's lost the protection of like because he had a nice home with her and things like that. He had an apartment. He was going to school. He could afford to go to MIT. Is that still on the cards for him now?
Well, he had the books, didn't he? Like all the test books and stuff. So he's obviously he's had to take a step back. Like there's no two ways about it.
I'm wondering whether we're going to see him go down that route, like the second Tobey Maguire movie, where he's going to be like in the next film, he's going to be doing a bit of everything. Like he's going to be a pizza delivery boy. He's going to be going to school. He's going to be.
I reckon so.
You're going to see him go through that same sort of process that we saw in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. Another thing that made me laugh is the Sanctum Sanctorum is late. It's late. Obviously, we see it covered in snow, and there were so many theories flying around as to why it was covered in snow, and Doctor Strange isn't Doctor Strange. But it was nothing that anyone had called. It was basically one of the portals had bust, and it covered the place in snow. But did you notice that scene that we saw with Wong, where he walks through the portal and says, "Don't do the spell," wasn't in the film, was it? That was different to the trailer that we'd seen.
Yeah, it was different to the trailer.
So obviously the way they laced that trailer together made it look like Stephen Strange was doing something underhand, but he wasn't. Wong just was like, "Don't involve me. Like it's fine."
Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme as well now.
Yeah, I know, right? That's pretty cool. One thing that you did get wrong that you didn't call was the Octavia scene where we thought that was going to be someone else.
Yeah,
it literally was
scene for scene, wasn't it?
But the way that it was cut looked like it was two scenes. Like I'll totally give you that. Like it does look like it was two scenes. But yeah, that was literally as it was in the film.
I love that whole thing where all the villains were in all the little cages that were all talking to one another. I thought that was the best part of the whole film.
Yeah, I thought that was really
all recognizing one another and stuff. Oh, brilliant.
Did you notice as well that Sandman knew like Lizard and knew Electro?
Did he?
He was talking about the characters from the other franchise, which I didn't quite understand because obviously Electro and Lizard were from one universe. And then the other three were from the other universe, but it might have been Sandman. But one of them was definitely talking about the characters from the other universe and knowing who they were. No, yeah, it was Sandman. It was talking about when Kurt Connors died. And he was like, yeah, he died and tried to turn everyone into lizards and stuff like that. Like it was, so I don't quite get that. That did throw me a little bit. I think that as soon as we started watching the film, and you kind of found out how the villains came across, you knew the other Spider-Men were coming. It wasn't like a big surprise, like because it was just too obvious. It was obvious that was going to happen. But there was that little part of doubt in my head where I was kind of like, no, all of them are saying no. All of them are saying that it didn't happen. But Daredevil as well.
Yes. I think that moment's going to be the one that's going to be forgotten because of everything that happened in that film. It's so at the beginning that it's kind of brushed over.
Blink and you miss it, and that scene's over. Do you know what I mean? Like literally, if you'd got up and gone to the toilet, you could have missed that scene completely.
Yeah.
But he's definitely the Daredevil that we know, isn't he? Like that's obvious that he is Daredevil, or at least
I don't think
powered up.
Yeah, I don't think they'll keep any of the storylines that we've had from Netflix. I think they're just keeping the actors personally. So I think we're going to see obviously Kingpin, and they might just make it so that they know who each other are, and they're just doing it as if the story's already midway through. I don't know, but it's cool to know that obviously today was the day that we saw Kingpin on Hawkeye, and then we saw Daredevil on Spider-Man on the same day.
Yeah,
that's brilliantly done.
That was very, very cleverly done.
But yeah, it's great to see Daredevil. I hope. I know they said that he's going to be involved with the She-Hulk thing, and he's still got another thing to come with. He's meant to appear in the Hawkeye thing, supposedly.
Oh, really?
But, I'm not sure when he will, but he's meant to appear in it.
I wouldn't be surprised. I honestly thought he was going to name drop Jennifer Waters, though. I thought that was when they were talking about lawyers and needing a good lawyer. I thought he was going to at least just give Happy a card or something, and just to kind of link it in. But yeah, that didn't come. But I just thought that was really cool. I thought that scene with the brick, like it wasn't even a necessary scene. Like you didn't have to have it. So it was obviously there to plant something moving forward. The only bit that it didn't explain was J. Jonah Jameson, because obviously it's the JJJ that we've seen in other films.
I think it would have been because people just wanted to see him again because he's a beloved character. I think it was just a case of we'll put him in it. We've got all the other Spider-Men, all the other villains. They couldn't not include him.
Yeah.
He's such an iconic part of the original film.
Yeah, the only part that disappointed me about him was that there was no kind of dialogue about him and 3 Spider-Men. Like that would have been brilliant. Yeah. Who's a menace? There's 3 of him. It's something like that.
Spider clones.
Yeah. My real disappointment with it is that they gave us 5 villains, but they didn't give us a 6th. They could have so easily had made the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
And not even call them the Sinister Six, but just to have 6 iconic villains in the film.
Are they waiting for their own version of it? Do they not want to do the Sinister Six with the old actors? Are they waiting to get that pop when we do it again with the real new actors for the MCU?
Yeah, I think
obviously
probably.
Three new Spider-Man films. They could introduce 2 in every film. By the end of that franchise, we've got the Sinister Six.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I just expected him to bring one more in just for the sake of it.
Do you think we'll see any of those characters again?
No, I think we're done.
Because it's the interesting thing is it's the Maguire universe that baffles me a little bit. I want to know what happens because we've sent, obviously they were pulled at the moment of their death. So when they go back, they're going back into their universes with the Spider-Man they were fighting. They're all now kind of not friends, but not enemies either.
But they're all cured, aren't they?
They're all cured, yes. But we've got Spider-Man, William Dafoe's Green Goblin, and Dr. Octavius are all like big scientist, nerdy guys that can understand science and stuff. And you're telling me that they're not going to try and find a way to break the multiverse or try and get back or try and do something? They're very smart guys. Would they not figure it out?
But would they need to though? What would be the reason for them needing to do it?
I don't know, but I don't know. There's a thing there that could bring them back if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think the reality is now that we've seen them on screen, they're all there. Do you know what I mean?
Done.
It's not just a case of like the multiverse was kind of imaginary up until now because it was like, oh yeah, well, that Spider-Man is one universe, that's another universe, whereas now it's a thing, it's a legitimate thing. We've seen them all together. So yeah, maybe, I don't know, quite possibly. But yeah, I just Andrew Garfield even referenced the rhino, didn't he? Like he mentioned it in a joke, like, and that's what cracked me up as well. They're talking about aliens and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I thought a Russian in a rhinoceros
in a rhino suit."
But supposedly there was leaked concept art of the rhino in that chamber scene as well. So I wonder whether originally there was an idea to have another villain and they pulled it for the sake of the story, because I don't know where they would have fit. I love the scene that we obviously saw in the trailer that everyone knew had 3 Spider-Men in it, but they'd been scrubbed for the sake of the trailer. That was really nice to look. And I didn't know where to look. I found myself looking at Lizard because I wanted to see the moment that his head moved. But I just thought that was really cool, like to see it as the three of them jumping, which was definitely a nice part of the film. But yeah, all in all, I just think it was an amazing film. Like I can't fault it. Like, I cannot fault it.
Before we round out, we have to talk about the post-credit stuff.
Okay. So there's two post-credit scenes. So the very last post-credit scene obviously isn't post-credit; it's more of a trailer, and I thought that was a really nice touch. I wouldn't want that to be the norm going forward. That if you wait till the very end, you're going to see a trailer. But the fact that there was a trailer for Doctor Strange 2, Doctor Strange 3, no, 2, isn't it? Multiverse of Madness, and no one was even aware of that. Like, there wasn't even a hint of that being at the end of the film, but it didn't look as exciting as I think I expected it to.
I think after that film that you just watched, I think anything would have looked a bit lackluster by comparison.
That's what I mean.
I was really expecting these films to all bleed into one another. So I thought when that thing in the sky was breaking, I thought that were it. I thought that was the moment where Loki had killed the guy, and I thought everything was going to come full circle.
Yeah,
but then just see him close it all off and reset a spell, and it's like, oh. But then the next film's called the Multiverse of Madness, and
But I think it's going to be Doctor Strange kind of dealing with the idea of the multiverse.
Yeah.
Because obviously we saw in that trailer the what if Doctor Strange from that episode, wasn't we? So he's now a live action now. You know, so that's a multiverse version of Doctor Strange, but he looked cool. Like, that was the big pop for me. And Wanda didn't look evil at all. Like, there was no part of that where she looked bad. But it looks like a good film. I'm excited for it. I'm definitely excited for it.
And you got your first glimpse of Miss America as well.
Oh, I didn't see her.
She was wearing a denim jacket with the big star on the back. That's me. That's Miss America.
Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know she was in that. Oh, wicked.
She normally hangs out with the likes of Patriot, who we have seen in the MCU, and Camilla Khan and all those characters. So she's part of the next wave of people.
So all like the Young Avengers kind of thing.
So another one.
All right. And then obviously we got the real kind of post-credit, which was obviously Eddie Brock.
Best post-credit scene ever.
It was very cool. I mean, it was
obviously because of the last one with the Venom, because the last time we'd seen him was in the Sony universe as a part of the Carnage movie. Then they had the post-credit scene where he recognized Peter Parker, and said about the hive mind and all that good stuff. And then obviously he's transported, because of what happened in the movie, he's transported into the MCU timeline. Literally, let's go to New York, and then let's go to New York and find Spider-Man, and then he gets taken away. It was the line that I loved more than anything. It was that, no, we've only just made it to this universe. Yeah, and it's just all the internal, like, aliens do not like stones. No, they like eating people. And then there was a bit of the symbiote left, so we have got a symbiote in our MCU universe. So I think this was their way of saying, look, because they know a lot of people don't like the current Venom movies. I think they're funny, but a lot of people don't like them. No. I think this is their way of saying, look, we understand we're rebooting it. We're using Tom Holland with him. And they're going to redo Venom properly, finally. But yeah. Well, what's interesting is, obviously, if you work on the idea of the multiverse, we've seen 3 Spider-Men, 3 Peter Parkers, then obviously... Oh my God. Well, Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock isn't the Eddie Brock from this universe. So we are going to, surely the symbiote is going to find Eddie Brock in this universe. So he could be very comic book accurate. He could be, Topher Grace. Like, it's like, he could literally look however. But I did read somewhere that they said something along the lines of that we are going to see Venom with the Spider-Man emblem. So I think they are going to go down the kind of, not necessarily the Secret Wars storyline, because that's where he then finds a symbiote suit, isn't it? But I think it's going to be along them lines, that the symbiote bonds with him, and then it comes off and bonds with Eddie Brock. Didn't Venom first of all attach to Spider-Man first, then to Venom? Isn't that how the storybook went? Because that's how he got the emblem, isn't it? He got it from Spider-Man's suit. So very similar to what they did in Spider-Man 3. Even to the extent with the church and the bells, like, that's how he got rid of
got rid of it in
Yeah,
one
I
of the
remember that
storybooks.
noise.
And then there was another story, and this is where I think it gets interesting, because there's another storyline where the Fantastic Four help him get rid of the suit.
Ooh.
And that's where the Fantastic Bagman costume comes from, because they essentially get the symbiote off of him, and then he's not got any costume, so they give him an old Fantastic Four costume and a paper bag, and he swings back to his apartment. So it
Oh my
could
God, that
tie
would be
in with
amazing.
Fantastic Four.
Can you imagine
Yeah,
if at the end of Fantastic Four you've got Tom Holland in a bag swinging away?
yeah, that really could happen, and I think it would be a real pop if they incorporate it. It's all set up to do it. The symbiote's there, Spider-Man's there, the
Fantastic Four is one of
Fantastic
the films
Four
coming out very soon.
are on their way. Yeah, but I was really pleased. I think I felt quite content that Eddie Brock wasn't involved and Venom wasn't involved, but he was just kind of brought over just enough to drop the symbiote off. Like literally, he was literally a postman in this film. It was kind of, I'm coming over, here's a bit, and then I'm going back. And I think following, obviously, Let There Be Carnage, where you see that another symbiote can be made from the Venom, like sort of symbiote and stuff. So they've kind of explained that it can already happen. So we know that even though it's a tiny little piece, we know that could essentially create a Venom.
Yep.
Which is really cool. But yeah, all in all, just an amazing film. Like literally from the minute it started through to, well, like the post-credit scene, wasn't a minute I didn't enjoy.
And obviously, I'm not sure about your cinema, but mine showed the Morbius trailer just before the film came on as well.
Yep, we had Morbius.
But then we didn't see Vulture in the film at all.
No. So
But
Vulture, yeah,
if
Vulture
he's
and
Vulture,
Morbius.
We're guessing he's Vulture at this point, aren't we?
Well, this is the only thing that doesn't make sense to me, and I thought that I was going to have it explained by watching this film. So let's imagine that Morbius is in the Tobey Maguire universe because of that mural that's on the wall, because it's the Tobey Maguire suit, isn't it? And it's got murderer written across it. And everyone assumed that was because of Mysterio, but that could very much be because of the Goblin, because of Dr. Octopus. Like, he's killed people, he's killed villains, hasn't he, in his universe? So let's work on the assumption that he's in the Maguire universe. Why is the Vulture there? And if it's not, if we're in the MCU universe, which we're not because it's a Sony film, but if we were in the MCU universe, that would explain why Vulture was there, but it wouldn't explain as to why we've got a Tobey Maguire suit painted on the wall, unless it's just graffiti and they've painted it different. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me yet. I need to.
Or have they changed it? Have they scrubbed it for the trailer because they don't want to give it away? Obviously, the last time we see Tobey Maguire, he's bleeding to death. He's been stabbed by the Goblin. Is it murdered? Yeah. Murdered. Is there a D missing on the end of that? Have they scrubbed the last two letters off? It's murdered.
Yeah, that's true. Or is that even on the wall in the film at all? Is it just something they've just superimposed just for the sake of a pop?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of questions with that, but they showed us the Morbius trailer. It got me hyped to that. I'm really excited for Morbius. All right, then, before we round up, then, what was your favorite bit? If you had to pick a favorite bit of the film, what would you say it was?
Favorite part
so much to choose from.
The bit with MJ's throwing bread at Andrew Garfield, try and activate his spider sense, and he's like, "You stop throwing bread at me." It's like, "Have you got the spider sense?" Like, I do, but not for bread.
Yeah, that was. I tell you what, Andrew Garfield's joke game was like level 12 in this, wasn't it? Like he was just up there. See, for me, I think it would be possibly the bit where they talk about web shooters. That bit definitely made me laugh.
Did they come out of anywhere else?
Yeah. You ever had a web block? Oh yeah, I did actually. Or the bit where they're talking to Ned about the best friends and I had a best friend and he tried to kill me and yada yada yada, and then he's being really cautious. It was very humorous. The humor was very good in it. So yeah, amazing film. Just totally lived up to every expectation. Totally lived. And I feel really bad now as well, because I posted a picture on Instagram yesterday of like the 3 Spider-Men together. I just got the action figures out and I posted them together and pretty much predicted that scene from my picture. Like there's literally a part.
Your picture was more or less spot on as well.
It really was, wasn't it?
Top scene and everything. That was
even the lightning as well. Like I literally have a handful of backgrounds to pick from, and I thought, I've got a bit of a building here, so what would look nice is some lightning coming down the back and stuff, and then I'll have them kind of posed together. And it was literally just a case of, if I was going to do a picture of Spider-Man, I had to do it today because otherwise people would call spoiler or whatever. So I was like, I have to do it before I see the film. And I kind of came out of the film and I thought, I feel a little bit bad because that was very close to the mark, like very close to the mark.
And you got a comment from Keith Lemon on it as well. You lucky son of a gun.
Yeah, well, we were chatting about the film. He went and saw it. He went and saw the premiere yesterday, and just mind blown. What an amazing film! What an amazing film! We're going to have to avoid talking about it on our regular show because obviously the regular show will kind of go out on Monday and people won't, and they won't have time to.
Anyway, so
I know. I do feel bad for him, but he can go if he wants to go. He knows that he can go. I think he'll wait. One thing I will say just before we do close up is that because of everything that's gone on with the pandemic and everything, I thought this was the first time I've actually been to the cinema since before the pandemic. My first cinema trip. Yeah. Because every other one I've kind of something's come up or whatever, but I was like, nope. And so for me, it was a really nice kind of reintroduction to the cinema. But in my cinema, there was no posters up for other films. Like it literally was a shell. There was no posters. There was no kind of promotional giveaway. Like with all the other Marvel films, there's always like a poster giveaway or something like that. And they had none of that for this, which is a real shame. So I would have liked to have picked up a promotional poster. But I am looking forward to seeing what promotional stuff comes out now that the film's out. So what the posters are going to look like. And quickly, actually, we've got to address quickly before we do finish up Marvel Legends. Like surely we're going to get the 3 suits, aren't we? We're going to get.
I don't think we're going to see the new Spider-Man. I don't think because it's too close. The Americans get the film when? Thursday?
Friday.
So the Americans won't have had the film yet. I think what we might see though is Green Goblin, Dr. Octavius. I think we could definitely see them getting a release because they're in the trailer anyway.
Yeah.
So you may get or unless they're going to do maybe a retro wave where they re-release the old figures by Toy Biz, just updated. They could get around it by doing that and not saying anything about the film. But we all know. But I don't think they're going to see them on Thursday. I think Thursday will probably be quite I don't think it'll be a huge amount, but I think there is definitely. I mean, I want figures of all these. I want all the bad guys. I want a lizard. I want a Sandman. I want a Sandman. I could skip actually because he was just CGI sand. I can make him out of pretend sand. But I want a lizard. I want Electro. I want Goblin in that new suit. Mm-hmm. I want Dr. Octopus, and I want the 3 Spider-Man. They've got to give us an Andrew Garfield and a Tobey Maguire. They've got to. But yeah, what an amazing film. No, I've loved having a chat with you about it, Sorrell. Hopefully anyone else watching who has seen the film, if you've got any other points or questions or comments or anything that you enjoyed, then pop them down in the comments below. And if you haven't seen the film, but you've watched this video and it's been spoiled for you, then shame on you, because we did say it a hell of a lot at the beginning. But yeah, just tune into Geek Week in Review, normal time. And I think that's about it, isn't it? Yep. Anything else to add? Final thoughts on it, or is that? I think we covered it all. We've covered it, yeah.
I think we've covered it all. Cool. Oh well, as always, like, share, subscribe, all those things. Check out Sorrell's details below, and we will catch you very soon. Till then, keep it geek.
The Geek Week in Review.